Okay, let's do free arm embroidery using the Husqvarna Viking Designer Epic 3. It's Megan, and of course, I am working on the Viking Designer Epic 3 today, which is so much fun. You might have seen our other videos about this machine, so what we're going to do here is we're going to stitch the design that we created in Stitch Creator onto a onesie, and it's going to be really cute. Let's talk about free arm embroidery though. Not every domestic sewing machine and embroidery machine can do free arm embroidery because usually the embroidery arm kind of gets in the way. With the Husqvarna Viking Designer Epic 3, we actually have the ability to put even our hand underneath here when we're embroidering. Of course, there's a table that gets that can replace it so that you have more of a flat surface. But with that, it's kind of unique because it allows you to do different things. And what's nice is that they've actually created a hoop that is an optional accessory for it that makes this a lot easier. If you get inventive, you of course can use your standard embroidery hoops and get that all figured out. But I wanted to show you guys how nice and convenient this is, especially with some of those hard to hoop items. Some things that you can do with free arm embroidery is do things like a tote bag. Like a tote bag where you don't have to take apart the seams in order to stitch it out. You can also do things like clothing. You can do jeans, you can do sleeves, you can do wine bottle bags, all sorts. So for example, this was one that I took that was actually a thrift store find, and I found a design built in the machine and I hooped it with that free arm embroidery hoop, stitched it out, and it did a beautiful job, which you can also see it's got metallic thread on it because of course I have to. So that was the deluxe stitch technology at work. It does such a beautiful job. So you can see this design did in fact make me happy. All right, so the other thing that you can do with this that a lot of people love to do, but often struggle to do, is doing things like itty bitty baby onesies. So this one was one that I did as an exercise to play with the shape creator and do some text. It's very, very cute, but I had an extra onesie, so I was like, let's do it together. So I've already hooped up my baby onesie in the free arm embroidery hoop here. Now, what is interesting about this one is that this whole inner circle is actually the piece that goes onto the machine. Most embroidery hoops are actually designed the other way. Hold on, I'm trying not to make a mess. There we go. So most embroidery hoops, when I go to do this, it actually hooks onto the machine with the back piece, and then the front piece goes on the top of your fabric. This one's backwards though, because this piece is going to connect onto the machine, whereas the inner ring is on the back side of the fabric. So you can see I've already stabilized this onesie. I've got a cutaway stabilizer in there. I usually like to use cutaway. Some people prefer wash away for baby onesies, but I knew I was going to be doing something a little bit denser, so cutaway will do a little bit better. But let's talk about actually hooping it on the machine. When you have something like this, you want to make sure that the actual opening goes around the throat of the machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of pull it down and slide it on. The biggest thing to make sure is that you don't stitch your onesie together or your shirt or whatever you're doing. So you can see with that free arm embroidery hoop, that made that process super easy, right? What I can also do is I can use my projector to make sure things are placed perfectly. So you can see I've got a nice big mark with a water-soluble pen onto my onesie here. Then I can turn on my projector. It's going to wake up the embroidery arm. You can see how quiet it is too. And it tells me to go ahead and attach the hoop. I did already tell the hoop or the machine I was using that free arm embroidery hoop, but are you ready to see how easy hoops are to attach? It's so easy. I bring it over and I push it down. I'm done. That's all it takes. There's no trying to fuss. There's no accidentally knocking it out of calibration. It makes it nice and easy on this machine to rehoop so that I'm ready for the next project. So when I press OK, she's going to think for a second and it's going to turn on my projector. Now on the screen, it tells me to move my hoop. And the way it's moving is actually physically moving the hoop towards the direction that you did. So you can kind of see me doing this here. Now, I can tell you right now, I can barely see my design. So I'm sure on camera, it's even worse. What I can do on my projector is I can customize a whole lot of it. So the background color I've got right now is black. I'm going to turn it to white. Okay, now I'm starting to see my ladybugs. I'm going to hit apply, and I'm going to move the hoop a little bit closer towards me so I can see exactly where those ladybugs are going to land. Oh. There we go. So I can kind of see right where things are, and I'm going to minimize this on the screen. And I can see that I want that top ladybug to be kind of right dead center. And you can't really see my text because it's such a small line, but that top ladybug does look like it's going to be almost center. So I can kind of move my design. Boop, 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 boop. When you use a projector, it's really nice to be able to use it to position everything. But sometimes you just gotta kind of play with it until you find what you need. There we go. So what I did was I positioned that center ladybug to kind of be kissing my crosshair in the center. That way I have a really obvious place of where I want to be. I'm going to look at my love bug. Yep, everything looks good. So right away, I was able to use my projector to position my design exactly where I want it to go. But that's not the only way we can do this. So I'm going to go ahead and go to stitch out mode. Stitch out mode on the screen is really nice because it's like a checklist making sure everything is set up the way that you want it to be. So right here, it's going to tell me, it can sense what needle plate I have on it. So I've got a zigzag needle plate on. It tells me what hoop I have selected, which is currently plugged in the machine. It tells me what embroidery foot to use that came with the machine. I can do color sort, which of course I do want to do. Otherwise it's going to do the red of the ladybug, the black of the ladybug, and then tell me to switch back to red. I'd rather do all of them at the same time. That's just me. I can do deluxe stitch system, which is the tensioning system in there that makes it so beautiful with those metallic threads. I can tell it to baste. I can do all sorts of different things. When I'm ready, I can just hit apply, and she's going to be ready to go. So the other thing that I can do to make sure that my placement is perfect, and this is with any type of hoop, any type of embroidery, same with that projector, is the exact positioning function. So the exact positioning over here, I can go in here
start over on that one.
So with the exact positioning function, I can go into here, and it's going to think for a second and then bring up the screen. What I love, it is like a 4-step process, but it gives me this description of what to do for each part. So we talked about putting that center ladybug, kind of kissing that center mark. So I'm going to move this green crosshair to where about it's going to kiss. Oops. Actually, that one moves the center, then I can move my arrow up to where it was. I can put exactly where I want her to be. So there we go. So I move my first point as like an anchor point on my design. My second step, I'm going to make sure that my needle is going to drop exactly where I want that point to be. So I kind of drop my needle a little bit with my hand wheel, and then it goes less than 1 millimeter over to get me exactly precisely where I want that ladybug to land, which I think I'm doing pretty good. The number 3, I find a different place that I want to make sure is positioned correctly. So for this, I want to make sure that the L of my love bug doesn't stitch into my collar. So I'm going to go to the very tip top of my L on love bug. And then I'm going to just check the rotation. So I can see right there that that's pretty close to the collar where she's going to stitch. So I'm going to kind of move this, rotate it slightly that direction. So luckily my hooping was pretty dead on. I am going to move the design down just a little bit because that L was a little close. There we go. And then once everything is perfect exactly the way I want it to, I can hit my green check mark. And it changed exactly what I wanted it to do. Now, this function, not only is it nice when you're trying to do a baby onesie and making sure that, you know, you're not accidentally embroidering something down on their belly versus on their chest, but it's also fantastic if you're doing edge-to-edge quilting or just trying to get something precisely exactly where it needs to go. So check that out in stores if you haven't, because it's really fun to play with. But let's go ahead and embroider on this baby onesie. So I'm going to turn my projector off because it'll stay on while we're stitching, but I think I'd rather see the thread go. I'm going to check my color. Oop, I need to go find a red. But once I find the red, I'll switch the machine out and you guys can see it stitching. Psh, that failed. Okay, well, you guys don't have to watch it stitch the whole way through, but I wanted to show you guys how cute these little ladybugs are going to turn out. So we've got the first one done. I'll continue the rest of them, and then of course, you guys will see the onesie floating around the stores. But as you can see, it's really, really easy to do these hard to hoop items without having to take things apart, sewing them together. You can do the exact positioning, you can use your projector, and it ends up making embroidery way easy, way fun, and your placement's perfect every single time. So, if you're curious about this Husqvarna Viking Designer Epic 3, come check it out in stores. Seriously, get your hands on the machine. It's so much fun to play with it. Not to mention, we do have it on our website. And of course, you can always give us a call and we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Be sure to check out our Husqvarna Viking Designer Epic 3 playlist. We'll see you guys there. Hey guys, here at Rocky Mountain Sewing and Vacuum, we always like to make sewing fun start here. And so we appreciate you watching this video. If you want to see more like it, check out this playlist. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you know what is happening here. So, we'll see you guys next time.